morning, sister.
Good morning, Jody.
Yes. And I'm going to call you Susie. I know your name is Susan Elaine
Correct.
Kresse, right? But you weren't born Susie.
No.
No. What was your baptismal name or your...
My baptismal name is Gretchen. It's also still my legal name. My family didn't know what to name me, and an uncle came into the church and said, "Name her Gretchen." So that's how I got to be Gretchen. But my brother, from the time I was just a thought in everyone's head, they called me Susie, and it's sort of stuck.
Oh, my.
The only people who have ever really called me Gretchen are my teachers in school and when I first entered, like Margaret Phillip and Patrick Jerome.
Mm-hmm. But then your religious name became Susan, correct?
Susan Elaine, after my oldest niece.
Oh, my. So everybody calls you Susie.
That's right.
Did your mother and father continue to call you Susie?
Oh, yeah, everybody.
Mm-hmm. And what's the background of your mother and father?
My father was born in what was then Austria, but is now Slovenia. Up until the end of the First World War, it was Austria-Hungary, and he was born and raised in a little town called Goce, he and his 11 siblings. My mother was of the same nationality, they call them Goceers, but she was born in New York. Her father died when she was 2, and her mother brought her back to the old country. So she was raised there too.
Oh.
So I'm 100% Austrian with a number of cousins still over there.
Have you ever visited Slovenia?
I've been there a couple times.
Have you? And have you met the cousins?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, beautiful. That's beautiful. And the siblings in your family, how many?
2. I have a brother, Art, who is in Gaithersburg, Maryland. He and his wife are in assisted living. And my sister, Doris Tainer, is in Shaker Heights. She has 7 children. My brother has 5, but she has 7. And they all live around the area except one who lives in Roanoke, Virginia.
I take it you were born in the area of Cleveland area.
Right.
So you're a Buckeye by birth.
Exactly. Mentality, even though I haven't lived there in 1,000 years.
Mentality meaning what?
I don't know. I somehow I have an affinity for Cleveland, even though I haven't lived there in 60 years.
Are you a sports fan?
I am.
Well, no wonder.
It used to be the Indians, but now I don't have that much access to the Indians. But now I do go with the Tigers.
Well, good for you. They're the best.
Exactly.
And all the sisters here know that,
They're
too.
a wonderful pastime during the summer, and I miss it when that's over.
Well, it'll be starting
soon.
It'll be starting soon. So I take it you had grade school with our sisters in Cleveland?
No, I had grade school with one community, Notre Dame Sisters of Chardon. I think they also have a group in Toledo for first 3 grades. And then I went to a new parish called St. Margaret Mary, and that was St. Joseph Sisters of Rocky River. And that whole parish is gone. There's not one stick of the building left, from what I understand.
When did you start thinking of becoming a religious sister, a nun, as we say?
I don't know, maybe around 12 or so.
In a dream or in your prayers or something your mother said?
Not my mother.
No.
She wasn't terribly excited about it. I don't know, it just was a gradual understanding or coming to an awakening.
But it never came to fruition until you met Adrian Dominicans, is that
Well,
it?
the sisters in grade school, who were excellent and good teachers, I was invited to join their junior aid, or whatever you called it then, their prep school. However, I wanted to go to high school. So I went to high school, and that's where I met the Adrians.
All 4 years.
Right.
At
Hoban Dominican.
Hoban Dominican. You must have been one of the first classes.
Well, not exactly. I started in 54, and I think the school started in 50. But I had great teachers.
Such as?
Well, Pauline Marie, she taught me my English skills. I think I told you about that. And then John Mary. Francilla was choral, although I wasn't very good in singing, but I enjoyed the class. Rosaria was top notch. And I probably entered because of them primarily.
What did you see in them that caught
Well,
your
for
heart?
one thing, they were not cookie cutter kinds of nuns, and they were they had great personalities. They seemed to be happy. That seemed to be very impressive to me.
Well, Rosario was a gem, was she
She was.
not?
I had her for 3 classes one time.
And John Mary Hogan?
Correct.
Yes, yes. She was at Siena around the time that she died,
Right.
as I recall.
Because I remember coming here and seeing her.
So did you wait till your senior year then to
Yes, until I
enter?
graduated.
Mhm. Anyone else from your graduating class enter at the same time?
Barbara Cervenka. She and I were very close through high school. There were 2 others who were juniors at the time. They both, however, have left. The Doka, Pat and Carol Doka from Hoban,
Yes.
but they were younger. Pat maybe only a year or so. Carol about 4 or 5 years.
Did you ever know Julie Jackson?
I did not.
No. Okay. She was a Hoban girl too, one of our former members. Tell me this: once you entered, your novitiate director was Sister Patrick Jerome?
Yes.
Yes. And then what was your first mission?
Well, most of my crowd, at least the younger end, stayed in to study. So we made profession in December, and I didn't go out till the following August. So I studied a few months, which was helpful. And then I went to Southgate with Mara Stella,
Oh,
and she was excellent.
yes.
I
As
thought
a
all
supe-
superiors would be like her, and they weren't.
Yes. Yes. God rest her soul. We
Oh,
just
God, yes.
put her to rest, didn't we?
My first superior, my first principal,
Oh,
a good administrator, a good, very fair with the sisters.
from Southgate, you wandered where?
I went to visitation in Detroit. It was very difficult. I didn't have a good experience there.
Well, we'll skip that then.
Yeah, it wasn't anyone's fault exactly, but I went to Precious Blood after that for 6 years, and that was much better. However, there were a lot of social factors in terms of changing neighborhoods and a lot of strife and very difficult. It was difficult in the church. It was difficult in Detroit, but we lived through it.
And you were very fortunate to have a principal and superior, I presume, if we had them at that time, Loretta Francis.
Loretta Francis for the first 3 years, and then John Daniel for the second 3 years.
Pat Turley, I bet.
Right,
that
Patsy
is.
Turley.
Very fortunate, very fortunate. So did you continue your teaching career throughout
Okay,
your life?
after I was at PB, I decided to go to school in Houston in religious education, and then I also moved to Florida and spent 1 year in Vero Beach, and then I think 4 more years in Winter Park.
Well, you've been all over then, because I know your last 23 years were in
Myrtle Beach. Poor me, I really suffered there, huh?
Yes.
I'd go back tomorrow if I could.
Yeah. And I imagine you had a lot of visitors while you were in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, I did.
But let's go back a few years around your first trip abroad. Would you
Okay,
tell
and-
me where you were and how this happened?
Okay, I was very excited about the council, the Vatican Council, and I got enthusiastic about ecumenism. And I saw an ad in the Cleveland Catholic paper for a tour to go to include 3 ministers, a priest, and whoever else wanted to go. So my mother and I went, and Frances Helen went with me. I had to have a companion. And it was marvelous. We flew all over Europe, Munich, Stuttgart, Rome, Beirut, Egypt, Jerusalem. And I think I told you that I had beer. I drank beer with Hans Küng, very interesting person. And I had dinner with Karl Rahner.
Well, that should go in the archives. That's quite remarkable. Tell me, did you not work for a while or assist Sister Ann Joachim?
Oh, I did.
Was that when you were a student?
Yeah. And when I was, after profession,
Mm-hmm. And what was your role?
I was her secretary.
Well, tell me about Ann Joachim. What do you remember about her?
I think everybody knows Aunt Joachim. She liked me, and that was in my favor, I guess. I think she likes people of German descent. An Austrian's not German, but for her it was. And I don't know, we just worked well together. And she took me to Ann Arbor to the law library a few times, and she had me doing some of her work with the students.
She didn't convince you to become a lawyer?
She never invited me.
Never invited you. Did you help her with any of her classes?
I didn't teach, but I corrected papers. Well, Pauline Marie was an excellent English teacher, and I was writing term papers like all through high school, it seems, because I had good background even from grade school. So I was great at correcting term papers.
And you loved that too.
I did.
And she loved,
Oh,
Sister
she
Ann
loved
Joachim did too. Yes. And wasn't she involved in, well, first of all, she was on the city council of Adrian. That was one thing.
She wanted to keep the Wabash trains here.
And she was successful, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm.
And she also was responsible for naming the street in front of the Mother House.
Yeah, I didn't know that till yesterday.
Yeah, Siena Heights Drive. It used to be all called the Academy.
Yeah.
Academy Drive. But we are on the Heights. We are on the Heights.
Are we higher than any place else around here?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
I think I knew that, but
Yeah,
it didn't
yeah.
really sink in.
So you've been to Houston, you've been to Florida, and you've been, at that point, been doing pastoral work, correct?
Yeah.
In parishes for
Yeah, I did.
several years.
I left Florida and I went to Columbia, South Carolina. And Shirley Levesque and Jerry Mago were there. So we had a wonderful community even though we didn't live together. But I was a pastoral associate at Our Lady of the Hills Church for 5 years and loved it, really did. Pastoral associate in DRE. And then after that, I went to Greensboro, North Carolina, where I was 9 years, and I loved that too.
9 years.
9 years. Those are the best years of my life.
Were you pastoral minister at that
Yeah,
point?
when I was, I would say I co-ran the parish.
Must have had a good pastor.
Pretty good.
Well, we won't give them a grade, will we?
Well, he still writes me Christmas cards, except this year he didn't. But one of the things, to go back to what we were talking about, traveling, this pastor that I had in Greensboro, his name was George Closer. He was very much in traveling, even before I met him. And after we got together, and I was still interested in ecumenism, we led a group of Lutherans and Catholics, the Lutheran pastor and his wife and George and I, two trips, one to Europe, where I saw the wall with the 95 Theses, and then it was still East Germany then. It was before the breakup of the Soviet Union. But then another year we went to the Holy Land with the same group.
Oh my, that's a gift of a lifetime, is it not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things I gained was greater understanding of the whole Palestinian issue through these 3 trips to the Holy Land. It really helped. Some people just don't understand the rights of the Palestinians and how sometimes we don't fully comprehend the relationship between the Jews and the Israelis and the Palestinians. But the Palestinians really have not been treated well.
Well, and that's gone on and on.
On and on.
And on since 1948, I believe, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, God bless you. Now, the last few years of your life, or last 14 or 15 years of your life, you've been doing social work.
At the end of my time in Greensboro, although I was certainly happy there, the pastor went on a sabbatical, meaning a new pastor would come. Well, that was the pits. And I just couldn't stay there and be subject on an ongoing basis with the whims of what the pastor wanted. So I decided to go to social work school. I did and got a master's at USC in Columbia. loved it for 2 years. And then after that, for 14 years, I was a social worker at Mercy Hospice
Oh.
in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, how beautiful. What was it? Tell us how that experience
I loved
was.
it. There were certain elements that I missed working in the church, but I loved working with the dying and their families. It was just a real privilege. And some people say, well, wasn't it depressing? And I'd have to say, no, it was not. The hardest thing was the driving all over the world, sometimes up to 100 miles a day.
Going to homes?
Yes.
I see. What did you do as a social worker, though?
Well, for one thing, what part of my role was, in some of the years anyway, was doing admissions, interviewing families, and then doing psychosocial assessments of the patient and family. And then visiting on an ongoing basis, about once a month or twice a month, depending on the needs.
Tell me about your mother and father. Did they live down in the Myrtle Beach area also?
Good question. My father died in 1989. They had moved to Fort Lauderdale in 1969. So I visited down there. I lived down there part of the time I was in Winter Park and Vero Beach. But so my dad died in 89. My two paternal aunts and their husbands lived on each side of my parents, so they had their own little community. And I was very close to my two aunts. I never met a grandparent.
You never met a what?
A grandparent.
Oh, okay.
So I had aunts instead, uncles. And so anyway, my dad died in 89. I started USC in 1990, and at that time my mother was like in her 84 or something of that nature. And she was set up in a senior citizen place, but my siblings and I decided we didn't want her down there by herself. And I had one aunt still living, but she was not very, operative. I mean, she was mentally, what do you call it, fading away.
Anyway.
So anyway, my mom came with me to Columbia, and we shared an apartment. When I got the job in Myrtle Beach, she bought a condo in Myrtle Beach, and a half a mile away, I got a house.
A house with a cat.
A cat. It was
And
the
your
only
cat's name was?
Kitty.
Kitty. Well, that was different.
Kitty lived to be 18.
Oh, my. Oh, my.
I got a little plaque yesterday. I don't know where. I got it for Christmas, I guess. That heaven you'll be with all the cats you've ever loved. So I'll be with a bunch of cats. But Kitty was the first of all the cats I had because I never imagined having a cat.
Were they always stray cats?
No, they each had different backgrounds, but Kitty came to me in Columbia. I lived on the second floor, and she came to my door. And then she kept coming, so.
You took her in?
I did. Well, she
her
took me in.
Yes, yes. So I presume that your mother passed away while she was...
Okay, and my mom was at this condo from 1992 is when I went there. We went there, and until 2000.
When did you retire?
In 2007. My body was giving out, to tell you the truth, all that driving.
And I suspect you have arthritis.
I do.
Terribly.
Very bad.
Yes. And the Adrian weather is not kind to
No.
people with arthritis.
Oh my gosh, especially lately. I don't know what more so than last year.
Yes. And you live comfortably,
Yeah.
correct, in Regina now?
Yeah, I'm in that area behind the elevators.
Yeah. On
It's very
first floor.
It's very convenient, really.
Yes.
I don't have to go up on an elevator anyplace.
Yes. Well, tell me, when you look back at your life, what was Vatican II for you?
The beginning of a miracle.
Such as?
Well, I mean, who would have thought 50 years ago that we'd be sitting here, you interviewing me about my life? I mean, dressed in civilian clothes and acting like, we're like everybody else.
Yes, we didn't even know one another's last name.
I know.
Yes, let alone
I
where they
didn't
were
know
born.
Marstella's first name until she died.
Oh, my. Well, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. Well, I'm so happy to have gotten to know you.
Same here, Jody.
Yes. Is there anything you'd like to say to your people in Myrtle Beach when they get to see this wonderful interview?
I'll be back.
You'll be back. Well, it helps to go back just once.
Oh, more than that.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
have my very best friend is there, but she has had a lot of illness, so therefore I haven't really gone a lot.
Mhm.
Only I've been there once.
Since you've come to Adrian, you've
Yeah.
been back. Well, that was a good feeling, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was sick at the time, and since then her husband died. It's been really traumatic for her, and I miss him too. He took care. When I left, I had 4 cats, and he always took care of them when I was here most of the time because I was up here for meetings, and he died rather suddenly during the summer, and I miss him too.
What is his wife's name?
Leslie.
Leslie. Well, Leslie, we send you our blessings for the new year.
I hope she sees this.
She will. Thank you so much, sister.
Thank you.